I never looked at him as a gangster. No, you looked at him the way I looked at him, as a man who inherited this thing, something that was handed down, not something he decided to act out. You begin to realize it's suspect because you don't know if someone wants you because they see you in the role or if they want you because they think you can get over the role. In this video, we take a look into the 7 actors Al Pacino reportedly hated working with. From feuds that erupted on set to cold silences, these interactions rattled productions and, in a few instances, altered careers. Did he actually hate working with Marlon Brando? What went down between Pacino and Jared Leto that had everyone on the House of Gucci set buzzing? Stay with us as we reveal 7 of the names that made the cut and the moments that tested one of cinema's greatest actors to his limits. Number 1, Marlon Brando. There are few films as mythic as The Godfather. Fewer still haven't cast as iconic. But behind the smoke-filled rooms and whispered conversations, a quieter drama was unfolding. One not written by Mario Puzo, but forged by pride, politics, and the always complicated calculus of respect between legends. Al Pacino, ascendant star with volcanic intensity, had secured the role of Michael Corleone, a part that would make his career. Opposite him was Marlon Brando, already anointed king of method acting, returning from a creative wilderness to play Don Vito Corleone. On screen, they were son and father. Off-screen, their dynamic was chillier than the Corleone estate in January. It began insidiously. On set, Brando's larger-than-life persona threw a long shadow, one that even Francis Ford Coppola couldn't quite control. According to people close to the production, Brando would improvise or change scenes, introducing uncertainty that angered the younger, more methodical Pacino. Marlon would just do things. Pacino remembered in an early interview, he wouldn't always tell you what. You had to react or drown. For a young actor still establishing himself, that absence of discipline felt more like sabotage than freewheeling. But the real breakup erupted at the 1973 Academy Awards. When the Oscar nominations were released, Brando was nominated for Best Leading Actor, Pacino for Best Supporting Actor, belying the fact that Pacino had greater screen time, greater emotional resonance, and carried the final transformation of the film. To Pacino, it seemed like erasure. He boycotted the ceremony altogether. There was gossip that he was angry with Brando. He felt robbed, said a production publicist close to him. Not by the Academy, by the story that Brando had carried the film. That wasn't his truth. Brando, typically cryptic, never responded directly to the issue. Rather, he dispatched Sachin Little Feather to accept the Oscar in his stead as a protest of Hollywood's handling of Native Americans, and this move overshadowed all other night-long scandals. Whether he ever saw Pacino's no-show is not mentioned. If he was concerned, he didn't demonstrate it. Years on, Pacino attempted to lay the feud to rest in interviews. "How does a story like that get out?" he said to The Hollywood Reporter. "I wasn't upset. Are you kidding me? I didn't go to the Oscars, but not because of that." Nevertheless, the tension remained submerged. They collaborated once more than they would ever do again, on The Godfather Part 3, in the guise of archive footage. In life, the two never co-starred together again, never made a joint appearance at an award ceremony, never shared a public hug. One of the two men's directors summed it up thus: Marlon was chaos, Al was control. It wasn't a feud of shouting matches. It was a battle of temperatures. And yet, even with the cold, Pacino never disavowed Brando's genius. He was like a magician, he once explained. You never knew where the trick came from, but it worked. The respect was genuine, but so was the hurt. Their tale is not one of open combat. It's something closer and more hurtful, a lost connection between two masters of the same art, driven apart not by talent, but by temperament. Now, with Brando dead and Pacino 85, the feud has become history. Not settled, simply retired. Like Michael and Vito, they were tied by legacy, and unlike the characters they portrayed, they never came to peace at the end of the tale. Number 2, Leonardo DiCaprio. Al Pacino doesn't yell to get a point across. He simply allows the silence to hang for a fraction of a second longer. He's from the school where instinct reigns, where sensation is more important now than recalling how it used to be. For 40 years, he's relied on his gut to guide him through Shakespearean tragedy, courtroom battles, mob turf wars, and monologues infused with fury. So, when Leonardo DiCaprio and his entourage of personal research assistants showed up on the set of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, script in hand with notations and pages of historical information, Pacino did not perceive devotion. He perceived disruption. The two men never shared a scene, but their shadow loomed large in each other's world. Cast members talked about the set being split along method, with Pacino living in a world of spontaneous energy and DiCaprio building his character like a cathedral, brick by precise brick. First assistant director William Paul Clark recalled it well. Leo would arrive hours in advance of call time, talking late 60s Hollywood politics to historians he hired on his own. Al would arrive, read the sides once, and then just live it. It wasn't a conflict. It was a low-key civil war. All came to a boil at a table read. DiCaprio embarked on an exhaustive analysis of post-Paramount decree industry power shifts, even drawing on studio, guild, disputes of 1968. Pacino relaxed into his chair, blew air out slowly, and grumbled, just loud enough to be overheard. "The research department is down the hall. We're in the acting department here." The line drew a laugh, but the air got colder after that. Those close to the production say Pacino later spoke with longtime collaborator Martin Scorsese about his frustrations. "He's got the head of an academic," he allegedly said of DiCaprio, "but sometimes you gotta burn the textbook and find out what's left." Costume designer Ariane Phillips saw it too, how DiCaprio would ask for several fittings in order to get a sense of his character's skin, while Pacino would come in, slip on a coat, close his eyes for 5 seconds, and say, "This is it." No hesitation, just intuition. DiCaprio, always the courteous student of the craft, attempted not to take it personally, but in private he complained to a friend. "He was my hero when I was growing up. I learned from him scene by scene, and now he's dismissing me like I'm wasting his time." The disillusionment was deep. To be rejected by an actor you admired was not just a creative difference. It was heartbreak. "Perhaps I'm overprepared," he once complained. "Perhaps I kill the magic by thinking about it too much, but I just can't do it any other way." His tension wasn't unfamiliar to Pacino. Years ago, he'd had a falling out with Tom Cruise on pre-production for Collateral, famously saying to him, "All this homework is terrific, but there comes a time when you must burn down the library and see what emerges." That same ethic informed his perception of DiCaprio, a performer he liked but didn't really comprehend. To Pacino, acting was an improvisational art. To DiCaprio, it was planning. And something shifted. The two were spotted having lunch together in late 2024 at Los Angeles' high-end Bird Street Club, accompanied by DiCaprio's father, George. Not a publicity stunt or planned reunion. Just 3 guys, 2 icons, and a dad chuckling outside a private club, swapping cigarettes, anecdotes, perhaps even apologies. Onlookers report Leo escorting Pacino to his car, slapping him on the back, calling him a king. Pacino smiled and replied, "You turned out all right, kid. It didn't repair the past, but it rewrote it." Nowadays, no one would say they were close. Their philosophies remain on opposite sides of the dial fire and blueprint, improvisation and calculation. But the hostility has mellowed into something softer. Not friendship, not kinship. Something more subdued, respect, tempered with wariness. Because in the end, Al Pacino did not hate Leonardo DiCaprio. He simply did not see himself in him. And perhaps that is what disturbed him most. But time has a way of mellowing out all things, even the cutting edge of legacy. And sometimes a feud doesn't require ending in fireworks, only a long lunch, a shared chuckle, and a silent understanding to let it go. Number 3. Tom Cruise. Al Pacino never was interested in surface perfection. He fashioned his legend on instinct, on believing in the unrepeatable raw magic of a moment. Acting for him was not about control, but about surrender. So, when he found himself being teamed with Tom Cruise, Hollywood's high priest of precision, for Michael Mann's Collateral, sparks didn't fly, they incinerated. The tension was palpable from the very first workshop. Cruise arrived with research, contract, killer dossiers, timelines of his character's life to the minute, and weeks' worth of gun training under his belt. It was the kind of intense prep that made directors weak in the knees. But Pacino, he was unimpressed. Gracing Cruise's painstaking analysis of the hitman Vincent with his presence, he finally interrupted. I don't need to know where the character went to grade school. I need to know what he's experiencing in the moment. That wasn't mere criticism. It was a warning shot. What transpired next was more a standoff than a feud, an artsy build-up over several weeks. During one improvisation exercise, Pacino threw out the script altogether, trying to surprise Cruise to elicit something genuine. Cruise, always in control, remained with his prepared beats. Angered, Pacino took man aside during breaks and growled, "All this homework is great, but you've got to burn down the library eventually and see what occurs." The line reverberated throughout the production and came to characterize the center of their artistic tension. Their approaches couldn't have been more opposite. Cruise was choreography. Pacino was anarchy. Cruise planned out every movement. Pacino let the wind dictate. Production designer Janine Opwall recalled camera tests with Cruise's every movement crafted like a stunt, Pacino's presence as unpredictable, alive, occasionally messy, but human. Man attempted to bridge the gap, but the chemistry was amiss. The energy was off. He finally made the gut-wrenching call. Cruise would take on the role of assassin, and Jamie Foxx, less confrontational and more versatile, would substitute for Pacino as cab driver. This led to a career-defining moment for Cruise and an Oscar nomination for Foxx. But there remained one question: what if Pacino remained? Years later, Pacino was questioned at the Venice Film Festival if he had regrets about walking away. His reply was vintage Pacino, measured, poetic, incisive. "There are actors who build beautiful houses. I like the ones who inhabit them, even if the furniture gets damaged sometimes." Number 4, Kevin Spacey. Al Pacino has always looked at acting not as an acting out, but as a type of raw emotional truth, something intuitive, instinctual, and unscripted. Kevin Spacey, by contrast, brought to each performance a clinical accuracy, working scenes with the careful calculation of a chess grandmaster. That dramatic contrast boiled over during the making of Glengarry Glen Ross in 1992, a charged production that exposed not only fundamental artistic differences, but a Cold War between two actors who were polar opposites in the profession. Spacey played the cold, manipulative office manager John Williamson in the film, while Pacino portrayed fast-talking, emotionally charged salesman Ricky Roma. Their screen tension was crackling, but behind the camera, according to several members of the crew, the tension was even more intense. Number 5, Dustin Hoffman. For Al Pacino, acting was never science. It was a tempest, an unbridled emotional dive into the heart of a character. He believed in instinct, in rhythm, and in the magic of letting go. Dustin Hoffman, on the other hand, handled the craft as if it were a dissection table. Each part required weeks of research, psychological plotting, and mental examination. So, when the two actors were brought together to star in Sidney Lumet's scheduled 1974 movie Attica, what was supposed to be a powerhouse combination rapidly devolved into catastrophe. They were two different religions of acting. Lumet eventually explained to biographer Morris Spiegel, Dustin needed to know every motive, every psychological subtlety. Al wanted to absorb the character's emotional reality and live inside it without intellectu.